Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic famous foods from restaurants across the country anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the US. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. This is where we hear from musicians about how and why they live this nutty kind of life of borrowed money and time, working loads of different side hustles. It's a lot to ask of musicians today, and this is where we find out all behind the scenes of that stuff. So on today's episode, we hear from Samantha Crain. Gumshoe is her new record. It's her 7th album. She's a Choctaw Nation native, which means that she has family within Indian heritage. Yeah, we talk a little bit about that and how she's got by working a bunch of jobs, making great music. That's what 101 Part-Time Jobs is all about. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. If you're able to leave a review on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening to this, that would be very helpful. We're an independent show and that stuff really helps us. Thank you for being here. After the jump, we hear from Samantha Crain. 101 Part-Time Jobs. 101 Part-Time Jobs just reached 400 episodes, and we won 2 awards at the Independent Podcast Awards. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. The reason we've been able to keep going is because of sponsorship. We've been lucky enough to work with some brands who we believe in and we understand the message of, and we hope you do too. This episode is sponsored by DistroKid. If you're looking for a way to put out your music, if you have a friend, a niece, a nephew that doesn't quite know how to get their music up on Spotify or Apple, tell them to head to DistroKid, where you can be your own record label effectively. That was a dream 10 years ago. I wish I had that growing up. But for an affordable price, you can go on DistroKid. Head to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod to get 30% off your running costs there for the first year. So if you've made a record and you're not quite sure what you wanted to do with it, you can head to DistroKid and release it yourself. distrokid.com/VIP/101pod for 30% off your first year. Right now, we'll get back to the episode.
I definitely grew up in a very, Midwestern, lower middle class family. So, I mean, really, I think it just comes from necessity. You have to work if you want to pay your bills and put food on the table.
Yeah.
I had a job fairly early on. I think, my first job I got when I was 15. Around here, you kind of have to, you start driving pretty soon. I know that that's not super common in the UK. I have friends that are my age that don't even have their driver's license. But in Oklahoma, you kind of just start driving as soon as you can because it's just easier on the family because everything is spread out. And so
you start delivering pizzas.
Yeah. My first job was at a movie theater, but the reason why I got it, when I was 15 when I started that job. And it was just so I could save up, so I could like get a clunker car, so I could drive me and my brother to school. So I mean, I've been working since then, and the work ethic is mainly just to make sure I can like put food on my table and pay my bills.
You have that type of family dynamic where you got stuck in pretty early. I'm the youngest, so like I always just sort of followed along. But I've got a couple of friends. My friend Matt, you know, he was working at 15 to help pay for the food of his younger siblings, which, you know, I've known him from that age, and it's still, it's wild, you know. And I admire him, and I think, wow, you know, you get stuck in.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have feelings about it where like I'm glad I have the work ethic because like it's kind of like unfortunately necessary like in the world that I exist in, but at the same time it's like I wish I didn't have to have it, you know? I wish that like I didn't have to, you know, have like 3 part-time jobs all the time, like in addition to music, just in case like a medical bill comes around that isn't going to get covered or something like that. And it's sort of just like, I wish I didn't have to have it, but at the same time, I guess I'm glad I do.
I mean, there's an immediate tension between that and playing music, and you can get paid as a musician. I mean, I often find it funny how people who playing down the street doing covers, and they're doing what they want to do. They're going to get paid more than people doing originals, like an indie club.
Yeah, I've noticed that. And the other thing that's like attached to that is there's not usually like the additional expenses whenever you're, sort of like a musician doing like weddings or clubs or things like that.
The wedding band's the cash in.
I know, because I mean, it's not like you're having to take all of the money that you're making from a show and then put it away for record pressing costs or money to pay like a booking agent or a band and all of this. So I mean, like there's all these other expenses that usually end up eating away the money that you're actually getting paid.
And you got pretty good at putting your ducks in a row. You got pretty good at like a spreadsheets early on. I was reading something the other day, and you were saying, you're saying you took yourself quite seriously in the early days, and I think everyone has to take themselves seriously at some point just to get the shit done. But I suppose that's the serious nature of being an artist, isn't it? Like putting those things down on paper and getting good at Excel.
Yeah, I don't think I'm good at spreadsheets by any means. Like I'm like horrified by them. I'm actually like I'm not great at like the business side of things. I do what I can to like get by, and that's what I've kind of done up until recently, which I've actually started to. I realized that the reason why I didn't spend a lot of time on that kind of stuff is because I was actually like scared of it. Like I was, because nobody taught me how to like deal with money or budgets or anything like that. And so I was just scared of it. So I'm trying to like face those fears and like have people actually help me with those now and not let it go by the wayside too much.
That's the thing, isn't it? No one teaches you in school. I mean, maybe not in my school. It doesn't sound like your school. That no one teaches you to work out how to do money.
No. I think I must have at some point. I have a vague memory of learning how to use a checkbook, but like that's it. Like how to write a check at some point.
It teaches you to spend money.
Yeah, exactly.
101 part-time jobs. 101 part-time jobs. There's this sort of, I don't know if this is the right phrase, but there's like this middle class of musicians, right? Where it's working musicians, people who are going on tour, releasing records, either on indie labels or like some major labels, but they're kind of in the middle, playing to 100 to 500 cap rooms or 1,000. And I wonder, like, where music is at the moment, and I mentioned Spotify, but the whole thing, like all the big tech being so like the music industry and people like yourself, like being so at the mercy of these big tech. Where does that leave you, do you think? in what you do and your approach to it and your thought on it? Like, where does all of that stuff leave Samantha Crain and your music?
Where does it leave me? I don't know. I think like the question that I always come up against is like with bands who do end up having to have like part-time jobs and between tours or making records or whatever. It's kind of like, what do you want for yourself in your life? Like, if you want your life to look like a 4-bedroom house with a white picket fence and 2 kids and a dog and like a 401k and retirement plan, like, it's probably not gonna like work out great if you're trying to like scrap by on part-time jobs and like also make a music career. I am lucky that that's just like never been something that I've been really motivated by, I guess. So this isn't like a super hard decision for me to just always I basically like work for my ability to, or like for the chance to keep making records and to tour. I mean, that's sort of like why I get part-time jobs in between. Because for me, that's all I want to do with my life. And, you know, sometimes I can rent like a house, and sometimes I'm renting like a bad apartment, and sometimes I've got a little extra spending money, and sometimes I don't. And I'm not really, you know, I'm responsible for my dog, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I think that's the conversation I'm usually having with musicians, is like, is it worth doing? And it's like, I don't know, you got to ask yourself that, I guess, and like what it is that you want for yourself.
What does success look like to you? I think for myself, as basically like a freelance journalist and someone trying to like make journalism, is like, you know, if I could do the food shop and I can pay rent and look after pickles and go on holiday once a year, that's a huge success to me, especially just in the generation that we're in, which is basically like we're lower down. Like we've gone down from our parents' generation, you know?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was just talking to my grandparents the other day about like buying a house or something. Well, we were joking about it because there's no way that I can buy a house, but they were, you know, commiserating with me. They were just like, we could have never bought a house if things were like this whenever we first got married. And I guess I was like, I thought it was nice that they could see that. You know, a lot of people like deny that stuff is getting like more expensive and more hard to come by and harder to actualize. But my grandparents seemed to get it, I think. But yeah, I think what you just described about success, that's sort of like where I'm at. It's like, as long as I'm getting to do this and you know, I have my rent paid and my dog taken care of, and like, yeah, can go on some trips every once in a while, and you know, not be in debt, like, that's like massive success.
I just spoke with that great Irish trad band, the Merry Wallopers, who sell out, you know, everywhere they go. And you know, there's a lot of Irish people in every country in the world, and it's great. They bring the party, and they were saying that it's an interesting time to live when like it's when it's such a rubbish time to live. It's a kind of exciting in a way, because if you want to try and do something, you might as well try it, because there's no safe option.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I never thought about that, but you're right. Yeah, there's no like, there's not just like a path that you can really hop on and everything's going to be okay. You might as well just try anything. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think, like, why do people do it? And I guess everyone's got their own reasons. And you know, for you say going on tour, like what is it? Is it like the condition of being a songwriter, where you've got songs coming out of you and you've got to do something about it? Where do you think it comes from?
I don't know. I mean, I hate to sound like pretentious or something, but yeah, it's just something that like I have to do. I don't know. I can't really like explain the impulse, other than that I know that it's like very helpful for me to like make sense of my life and like my existence. Like it helps me sort of like work through various like eras in my life and sort of bookend different things in my life and have hindsight about things and understand things better. I mean, that's why I do it. And it also just, it's like very magical to me. It's like no matter how many songs I write and how many records I put out, I will never really understand the process. Like it always feels like it's a magic thing that I've like created something out of nothing, and I'm like addicted to that, I think, a little bit. And so I don't want to give that up. I don't get that feeling from anything else.
Gumshoe sounds rad, and it is magic. I think magic is in there, in the kind of words around it, the language around it. It's got a lot of like alchemy to it.
Alchemy for Gumshoe. Yeah, I guess so. You get like a certain images in your head when you think of the word. I mean, I was always like really attracted to the word. That's why I've had that word in like every notebook that I've had, every writing notebook that I've had since I was like 17. I was obsessed with this TV show and computer game when I was growing up called Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? And
okay.
And that's what they called like the user or like the person that was watching the show. They called you a gumshoe. And I always like loved that word. And I just like wrote it down all the time because I was like, someday I'm going to use this in something. I'm not sure what. But yeah, there was just something about the word that I liked the sound of, I guess. I mean, it is about like trying to discover sort of like the shadow parts of yourself, I think, the parts that like you don't quite understand or you're not as that aren't as noticeable to you. So I mean, I think anytime you start to sort of dabble in that territory of like trying to understand something, it's going to get a little bit like woo woo, a little bit mythical.
Yeah, a bit crystal in the stomachs.
Yeah,
down with that. Have you ever done any of that stuff? Have you ever gone that I was just looking at like ketamine therapy, and I've actually I don't think I've ever done ket like as a party drug, but looking into that, that's kind of becoming more and more of a thing, isn't it, in the Western world?
I know. I was actually just the other day looking. I really like to go to saunas, like if I have like a day off on tour or something, and so I was looking up if there was any sort of like sauna or like banya or something in Austin, Texas. Because we're going to be down there in a couple of days for a show. And I saw this place that has like a sauna you can go into, but they also do like ketamine therapy. And I was like, oh, we're just like, we're at that point where we're just like putting in ketamine therapy with any sort, like going to the gym. It's like, go to the gym, pump your iron, go to the sauna, get your ketamine therapy.
Put that thing up your ass. Do that.
Oh my god!
It's going that day. Yeah, it's kind of. Do you go into they do like the lion's mane mushroom stuff as well, which kind of I almost clicked that link on Instagram the other day.
Oh, almost like the adaptogen like powders and stuff like that. I've definitely bought some before to like try to put in my smoothies, but I don't know that I don't know that I really felt anything. But who knows?
You've been writing songs like this much, this amount of time, probably you're probably going on half your life making records?
Almost 20 years now, so like over half my life.
So you like at a stable place with it? Do you think you ever get to a point where it's stable and you kind of know what to expect?
I hope not. I think that's sort of my attraction to it, is that like I never know what I'm doing. I never know like how I'm gonna get to the end of a project. I'm just sort of like trusting myself that I will that it will get to like where it needs to go if I just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And that is like, that's part of the attraction to me, I think. Like I wouldn't have the same response to it, I think, if it was kind of the same every time.
Yeah. And that's like the art of it, is like following that thread, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true.
Have you had moments where you're like, fuck, this is this might be too hard?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Okay.
I mean, even with this album, I felt that several times. There was, I mean, the most like recent moment of it was during like the mixing process. I went a different way. Like I had in my head like a certain person that I like wanted to mix it and like a plan for that, and then went into that and kind of got a week into that process, and it just like was not working. It was not going in the direction that it needed to go. And I think I was almost at that point where I was like so close. I'd heard the song so much at that point, and I was so close to it, and so sort of like devastated by how the mixing process was going that I was like, I think I just have to like scrap it and like start over, because I don't think I'm going to be able to like finish this. And I mean, thank God I didn't. Like, you just sometimes need like a couple weeks away from it and go do something else and then regroup. But sometimes it's like when you're the person that's sort of like spearheading a project, it's like you have to be the one. You have to be like the psychologist for yourself sometimes, and that can be really difficult to like give yourself advice, like the right advice in the moment.
Yeah. What the fuck is the right advice?
Usually, well, in that case, it's take a step away and regroup in a couple of weeks whenever you have like when you're not as close to it, and you can think about where to go next. But in that moment, you're just like kind of panicked that like you've just spent 2 years of your life working on something that's going to end up in the bin.
I mean, it must drive you absolutely nutty, and like you're like hearing those songs so many times. It's so fascinating that you can write this song in this moment. It might be at 4 o'clock. You come home, you have a cup of tea, you just have that moment, and you write that great chorus. There's so much time gone past, and so many times listening to it past that like it just seems. Yeah, I mean, it seems quite intense.
Yeah, I sort of have a built-in rule for myself that once a record is mastered and it's like finished, I don't listen to it again until it's time to start rehearsing for tour, because sorry, my dog is barking. I hope it's not like not picking up too much. But yeah, I try not to listen to it too much until it's like time to start rehearsing for tour, because I want the songs to be like enjoyable for me and still have some freshness whenever I'm on the road, like performing them for people. And usually by the end of like mastering a record, it does not feel fresh at all to me.
What are the kind of the shows or the other jobs and hustles that you've done along the way that you've kind of managed to kind of not burn yourself out on, but maybe still go back to after the next tour?
Oh my God, I've had so many jobs. It's insane. I mean, probably the job that I've done the most is waiting tables. I did that for 12 years, really. I have sworn that off. I've decided I'm not doing that anymore. And
done.
I've been a bartender. I've worked at like an animal rescue. That's been like sort of more recent. That is just cleaning out possum cages, like cleaning poop. Cleaning poop out of possum cages is basically what my job was there, and doing a lot of laundry.
Nice.
And then I've worked pizza delivery. I've done my most recent part-time job is working at a liquor store and doing deliveries for them, and then also just like working at the store. I've worked in warehouses. I've worked as a secretary. I've worked as a manager of a salon. I mean, it's kind of just like whatever I can get at the moment that's like somewhat flexible. That's like the main thing for me, is that like I just have to be like really honest with the people that I'm working for, that like, I have like a weird schedule, and it's got to be something that can kind of be like flexible, I guess.
Yeah. What's usually the sort of people's take on that when you're like, yeah, I've got to go on tour in a month? What's the conversation usually like?
I mean, I don't like get a job and then throw that on them. I'm always like very upfront about it when I start working at a place. Like I mean, tours are usually planned out like in somewhat of advance. So usually when I'm getting a job, I can say like, this is my schedule up until this, and then I'm going to be gone for 2 months, but then I can come back and I can work again. And, you know, I mean, people are cool about it because the people that are like hiring me, already know it about me, or they wouldn't have hired me. And luckily, you know, in Oklahoma, because I like live here where I'm from, and like I've lived here for a while at this point, it's like I kind of have like a network of people that hire musicians or artists or things like that, if that makes sense. Like this liquor store that I work at, like everybody that works there is in a band, so we're all like working with each other's schedules. So, I mean, it's like you find jobs like that where people are used to like working with like artists or whatever.
That's just a good network. There should be a website for that.
I know, yeah.
Jobs! And, you know, I'm not sure if you want to talk about it, and totally fine if not, but I know you had a car accident or 3 car accidents in the space of 3 months. Are you okay now? I mean, we know what it's like in America with health insurance, but did you have like chronic pain after that? Were you able to live a pretty normal life and do these jobs and like lift things, you know, and not be in pain?
So, you know, right after the accident, there were 3 accidents in a row, but the first accident was like the worst one, and it did quite a lot of like damage, skeletal and like nervous system damage to like my neck and shoulders, and that's what started affecting my hands, and I like lost all of like my strength to be able to like play guitar, or I mean I couldn't even like hold a cup, let alone like play a guitar.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty difficult, you know, 7 or 8 months before I really could find like the right therapist to work with to try to like address some of these problems. And I couldn't work during that time really. From a healthcare standpoint, I am lucky because I'm indigenous, and so we have like some healthcare through Indian Health Services here that you know, helps with some things, but there was a lot of like additional therapy that was not covered through that. And obviously like my rent still has to like get done.
I don't know anything about the Indian heritage and the government support there. How does that work in a sort of simple way?
I mean, I'm not probably the best person to ask like the actual logistics of how it works, but I think it's part of like a treaty from like a long time ago where like the government has like a certain amount of money subsidized for hospitals and like clinics on reservations. And I mean, a lot of it's not like completely covered through the federal government, but because a lot of the tribes like have their own, well, all the tribes like have their own governments that I'm sure like fund that. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it works. I just know that like, well, I don't want to say that either because there's all the tribes are so different. But for me anyways, we have certain clinics and hospitals here in Oklahoma. If you have if you're a member of the tribe, and you can go to these clinics, and it's free. There's a good joke though, where it's like the thing that you always get prescribed within like the Native American community. The joke is like, if you go to IHS, you're gonna get prescribed ibuprofen. Like that's all that they're gonna prescribe you. Is like you could go in with like a broken leg, and they would like you could go in with like a knife in your stomach, and they would prescribe you ibuprofen. It's like it's kind of funny.
Right, that's funny. We weren't taught anything in school, and you know, I'm an adult, I can read myself, but I don't know much about Native American history or origins. Do you know much about the tribe that you came from, and have you read into that stuff much?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, American kids aren't taught anything about Native American history either. So don't feel bad at all.
It's not right. That's not right, that, is it?
No, it's not at all. It's been, they did a pretty good job of wiping it out of the common vernacular of what people know. But I mean, I grew up like pretty connected to my culture. My grandparents and my aunts and uncles and a lot of my cousins, they live down in southeastern Oklahoma, which is where the Choctaw Reservation is. And so in the summers, we would go down there and get to interact with like our tribe, like on a more interpersonal, in a more immediate way, I think, and learn the traditions and the cultures and things like that. So I feel, fairly, and then also like I'm very dedicated to learning the Choctaw language. That's like a huge priority for me. And, I've written some songs in the Choctaw language and also have plans to do a lot more of that in the future. And so I feel like somewhat knowledgeable about my own tribe, but there's so many different tribes in the United States that I couldn't speak to the practices of all of them at all.
I'm a big fan of hearing about other people's work gaffes, mistakes, funny mistakes in the workplace. And I wonder if you've got any good memories or specific times that you have put your foot in it or messed up at a new job. The embarrassing moments.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any? Do you have one of them that comes to mind?
I'm sure I do. For some reason, the first thing that came to my mind isn't necessarily about embarrassing myself because of something it is. Okay, so I used to work at this pizza place in Oklahoma City, and at the time there was a big tax incentive for movies, like to shoot in the state of Oklahoma. So for whatever reason, there was like a couple of years where we had a lot of movies shooting around the state. And
Sure.
I was working at this pizza place and just like serving a table. And out of the corner of my eye, I see Paul Dano like come in the front of the building. And he's with like a couple of other people. I didn't really recognize them, but I recognized him. And I went to the back of the restaurant. The restaurant is very small. It was quite a small pizza place, and it was pretty busy. And they were talking to the host about like getting a table or something. And I was trying to express to my fellow waiters in the back of the restaurant that Paul Dano had just walked in, and they did not know who I was talking about. They didn't recognize the name. And I was trying to like think of everything I could, like any reference that I could to like explain who he was to them. And finally, because nobody was getting any of my references, I just like in a really loud voice just goes, I drink your milkshake. Like and I said it like so loud, and I just see his like face like turn towards the back, and I was so embarrassed. Number one, because that's not even his line in that movie, but it was like I just couldn't think of anything in the moment because I was so flustered. That luckily I didn't end up having to wait on his table, which would have been mortifying, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
So there was Samantha Crain here on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Her new album, excellent album, Gumshoe, is out now. You can catch her on tour. Go follow her. Following people online is probably the best way to find out where they're touring now. Go and find her on tour if you're able to. And see you later on next week when we've got some episodes with Matt Maltese and author John Niven here. See you then.
101 Part-Time Jobs is hosted by Giles Bidder and produced by me, Olivia Swash. This has been a Mighty Moon Media production.